Hey guys, what's up? Is your friendly neighborhood UberGoose here. I have a video for you guys today in Path of Exile. I'm covering this build that I've been working on for the Incursion League, currently softcore Incursion. And the build is Vaal Righteous Fire with Chaos Inoculation. And I have some footage for you guys to show some maps. This one is just an Alkengo Fields. The next one will be an Alkengo Elder influenced, Residence, I believe, and then I'll have an incursion at the end, and then we'll hop into PoE, and I'll show you guys what my gear looks like. So, to cover how this build generally works, it uses the Soul Catcher Flask, which would theoretically get upgraded to a Soul Ripper Flask, if you had the currency. Currently, Soul Rippers are obscene in how expensive they are. But if you get your hands onto one, definitely do that. It'll just be better, but you can definitely get by with a Soul Catcher, as you can clearly see. And the basic premise is that despite CI not being able to use regular Righteous Fire, because if you have one life, Righteous Fire turns off, Vaal Righteous Fire consumes 30% of your life and 30% of your energy shield, and takes that number and turns that into damage over time around you. And the other thing is Vaal Righteous Fire has a larger AoE and has a duration rather than just being always on. And so with all this stuff, it turns out 30% of 1 doesn't round up to 1, so we're good there. We don't die to using Vaal Righteous Fire. And because it's a duration base, it has a base duration of 4 seconds, and then a soul gain prevention duration of 12 seconds. With a combination of a whole bunch of stuff, I can get it so the soul gain prevention duration is down to between 5 and 6 seconds, closer to 6 at the current moment. And then the duration of Vaal Righteous Fire itself is close to about 11 seconds. You can get that a little bit higher if you desire, but for now, I'm pretty comfortable with about 11 seconds. This basically means that we have somewhere around 5 seconds-ish to use Vaal Righteous Fire to gather souls for the next one without actually, you know, having any issues at all, right? We have that window between soul gain prevention wearing off and Vaal Righteous Fire still being on to collect souls. And the other nice thing is because of Soul Catcher, because of the way the Soul Catcher works, it actually increases, or rather, when you get Flask Effect, which I do on Tree, you actually can make it so not only is the Soul Effect duration even less as you get Flask Effect, but also the Soul cost ends up being less of the Vaal skills that are used during Soul Catcher. So currently I have it so it uses 26 souls of the 40 that Vaal Righteous Fire can hold, and so that means I'll be left with 14. And the cool thing about that too is the fact that also I'm gonna right here you're gonna see a cut. You're not gonna see the whole residence. I decided to cut out the incursion and have it as its own little thing, but I'll jump forward to the boss and you'll see how that goes. But the yeah, basically, it uses 26 souls, and it can hold 40. So if I get up to 40, right, and then I pop Soul Catcher and pop Vaal Righteous Fire, then what happens is I'll be left with 14 souls. Now, the cool thing about being left with 14 souls is not only like, wow, I can get to 40 faster, but you can also activate Soul Catcher without being capped on souls, without being ready to go, and it actually is, like, totally fine, right? As long as you have, in this case, the amount of souls, the 26 that it costs, when you hit Soul Catcher, you can just use it right away and then go down to effectively 0. So what this means is that if you have a notoriously bad, like a specifically very bad chunk of the map where, you know, you can't collect a whole lot of souls, and here's the incursion, by the way, where you can't collect a whole lot of souls, it actually can be mitigated and kind of made up for in other spots of the map where it's better and you can get the full 40 in that little duration, because you'll be left with 14 and the cost is only 26, so you only theoretically need to get 12 in that roughly 5-second window. So here's an incursion just to show you what it's like. Obviously this incursion's not ideal, but I guess this will show you the worst case scenario for an incursion, and even then it looks pretty dang good. So as soon as this is over, we will hop in-game and I will explain the ins and outs of this build in-game, and we'll also cover anything else that I don't cover in the video in a written guide, probably on the Path of Exile website, so be on the lookout for that. And I guess I'll see you guys in-game. Alright, and here we are in-game. Here is the character. I'm currently level 86. The character's name is Look Dude, This Is Just Memes. I currently have 10, 557 energy shield, And we're just gonna get right into gear, and then I'll talk about links and passive tree. We'll cover it all right here, and I'll do my best to cover all my bases. Again, if anything isn't covered, I should have a written guide somewhere. I think I'm gonna put it on the Path of Exile website for, hey, maybe a chance to get a build of the week. So here we go. We got Brightbeak in the main hand. This is mostly for clear speed, but frankly, the fire and lightning res is actually pretty nice, so I actually kind of like that part. Helps quite a bit with my current resistance setup, and also we have quite a few slots with no or low resistances, so this definitely helps. In the other weapon slot, in the offhand, we have Apex Supremacy. This is also new with this league, along with Soul Catcher. This is a league-specific item, and this is the upgrade version of Apex Slumber. Apex Slumber makes it so when you're poisoned, you get energy shield regen, I think, as well as the max res, or all max res. But Supremacy is the all max res. When you get poisoned, you have an extra chance to be poisoned. And honestly, the most important part about this, aside from the fact that it's a pretty high energy shield, is the fact that you take chaos instead of physical from bleeding, because bleeding kills this build dead really, really powerfully. And to be honest, I could be running a flask. I mean, frankly, this flask slot should be replaced with basically anything. I'm just running a mana flask right now because sometimes it feels okay to have. So that's literally all the whole reason that this is here. You could have any sort of flask in here. You could roll it to remove bleed, whatever you want to do. But it is nice to just have this and not die to bleed really, really quickly, because this build has, I think, literally 0 armor. Yeah, actual 0 armor. Does bleed get affected by armor? Doesn't matter. Point is that taking chaos instead of physical from bleed completely removes a debuff type from mattering, because with CI we have 100% chaos res, so bleed totally doesn't matter. Then that includes corrupted blood, so you can pretty freely just sprint through maps, right, and have like no worries about anything. Then as far as other uniques are concerned, I'm also running Sintrek. This is mostly for the move speed, and they're pretty good energy shield boots in general, like a pretty easy base level of energy shield boots to get. So they're very cheap. I want to say they might even just be like 1 alchemy or something like that. So that's the main reason. We could replace this with rare boots. I probably will at some point. I'll probably spend the currency to get a nice pair of rare boots that has more energy shield, same move speed, and probably something else on top. And then the final unique that I'm currently using is Bated Breath, and Bated Breath is mostly just here because it's a ton of energy shield. The nice thing about being a Righteous Fire build is that building your health pool, or in this case energy shield pool, increases the damage you're dealing. And with Vaal RF, it actually increases to such an absurd amount, like an insane amount. So Bated Breath might not be the most exciting thing, but it does give us that much energy shield, about 700 in just the belt slot, which is pretty crazy. So this is mostly important just because of how much energy shield it gives. The energy shield recharge rate is fine. The int is fine. The global damage is fine. All these are fine, right? It's mostly just a lot of energy shield. And the rest of the slots are all rares. I'll start at the helmet. The helmet, just a rare, has energy shield. You want energy shield and resistances on helmet. If you can get other stuff, cool. If you can get an enchant to affect Scorching Ray, cool. It doesn't really matter. Totally optional to get anything else. You just want energy shield and resistance. Amulet, this is where a lot of your stats are going to want to come from. This build needs a lot of stats that it doesn't really get while traveling on tree. Strength being the worst, but Dex also, you do need a good amount of stats. So get your stats on your amulet, also resistance if you can manage, and also energy shield if you can manage. This one's pretty good because it's kind of like a Bated Breath. It has increased max energy shield by a percentage, which is great. If you can get that, cool. And that can roll up to, I think it's slightly higher than 20, right? Like 21 or 22. 21 or 22 is like the absolute max roll, because this is a tier 2 roll on Indomitable. So yeah, look for that sort of stuff on your amulet. And again, just get res wherever you can. It's pretty relevant. For rings, just get a Moonstone ring with res, right? Just a Moonstone ring that has the implicit as well as the other energy shield on it, and then res. You could get opal rings if you want. If you feel good about your defenses and you just want more damage and you have the currency, go for opal rings, obviously. They give increased elemental damage, which scales all of our damage. But for the most part, Moonstone rings are dirt cheap, and all you really need to increase your damage is more energy shield, so there you go. And then for the gloves, it's pretty much the exact same story. Pretty much everything is going to be just about the same. Just get gloves that have energy shield and res. That's it. And chest. Shocking, I know, but you're going to want energy shield and res. The biggest, most important thing for this build, I would say, is getting a good rare chest. And obviously getting it 6-linked. I was able to pick this one up for 1.5 exalts. It was a pretty good purchase. Fully linked, all that stuff. It already came with the strength enchant. I wanted to remove it, but frankly, I actually need it. I need the strength enchant in order to, you know, meet all the requirements. That's all that gear. As far as flasks are concerned, this mana flask should probably be a Rumi's. That's about it, right? Either a Rumi's or some other like a what, Jade Flask, right? Is the one that gives evasion? Yeah. Or wait. Yeah, Jade Flask. So either like a Rumi's concoction or a Jade Flask would be good in this slot. You can also run a Mana Flask. Again, sometimes I feel like it's necessary because when I'm channeling Scorching Ray, you can actually see my mana is going down. And one of the weird things about Soul Catcher is that you actually can't gain mana during the effect, and that includes from Mana Flask, but being able to pop a Mana Flask during the effect, and then at the end of the effect, getting all that mana going back up to full rather than just slowly ticking up, has been relevant a few times. But the other flasks are just Sulfur Flask for the Consecrated Ground and % increased damage. Roll it however. Soul Catcher is obviously very important. The most important piece of Soul Catcher is the final line. The Vaal skills used during effect have 40% reduced soul gain prevention duration. This can roll 30 to 40, I believe. No, 20 to 40. So get one that has 40, because they're still dirt cheap, right? They will be, because this thing drops constantly. So get one that has a perfect 40 roll. If you can swing a higher % increased damage roll, go for it. It's not super relevant. But just get that 40%. And also don't actually quality this flask. And the same is true for Soul Ripper. You don't actually want it to last longer. It doesn't really give you a huge benefit to last longer, except for that increased damage during effect. But it reduces the duration, or it makes it so you will have longer duration of not gaining mana. And the only thing that really matters is using Vaal Righteous Fire during the flask effect. So quality is actively potentially bad. And then I have a Witchfire Brew, which is just a Witchfire Brew. It's good, increased damage over time. Also gives a Smoke Cloud, also gives evasion rating. Great flask, you always want it if you're doing a dot build. And then a Quicksilver, which I need to roll at some point. I'll get around to it. You just want something to move fast. And as far as links are concerned, we have Vaal Righteous Fire linked with increased duration support, burning damage support, elemental focus support, increased area of effect support, and efficacy support. The main things that you would cut if you only had a 5-link would probably be increased AoE, or even one of the damage ones. Frankly, Vaal Righteous Fire does way too much damage, so you could pretty happily cut one of the damage links and still be totally fine. You have 3 of them. I think the lowest one is elemental focus. Oh yeah, don't cut efficacy. So it's basically between burning and elemental focus. So yeah, cut focus, has lower numbers. If you're on a 5-link, it's between focus and increased AoE. Definitely always have increased duration, efficacy, and then burning damage, and then your choices between these two. As far as other links are concerned, I have Scorching Ray linked with elemental focus, burning damage, and efficacy. This is because this is our skill to actually gain souls, because Vaal Righteous Fire can't be activated until you have souls. So we need something to do it, and as it turns out, Scorching Ray and Righteous Fire are best buds all the time, so it's just the natural choice. Also worth noting that if you're fine without running Brightbeak, you should run a Balefire in this slot, so your Scorching Ray is level 25, and you can have the same links because it has 3 slots. Balefire is also pretty cheap. I was using that for a while. It felt great. But obviously, as I leveled up my Scorching Ray gem, it's felt close enough that I'm not really missing Balefire too much. So yeah, this is our skill to actually gain souls, and also our support DPS skill, one on a boss, because it doesn't really, we're not really doing anything on a boss, right? Our damage is coming from this, and it just kind of exists around us. And then we have Despair, Flammability, and Blasphemy support. We'll go into the tree and you'll see how I'm double cursing on this one. But both curses are very, very good for the damage we're dealing. They have the increased damage taken from damage over time effects, which, because it's on the enemy, it's basically like a more multiplier, which is great. So Despair is incredible for this, and then Flammability is also good because it reduces their fire res. So both are great. Both are good curses, and we can run double curse, so we do. Then I have Orb of Storms with increased crit strikes and faster casting. Orb of Storms is one of the easy ways to trigger our keystones that increase our damage. Our elemental damage reduces the enemy's resistance as well as gives us more elemental damage. Again, I'll talk about that when we get to the tree. And then I have Immortal Call linked with cast when damage taken, also linked with Tempest Shield and increased critical strikes. The reason for this is I had more link slots and I wanted to put something here that actually like helped us, also to trigger off of cast when damage taken. So I decided to go with Tempest Shield because it gives block chance, and because it's lightning damage, it can't mess up elemental equilibrium, and I may as well also just link increased crit strike support to it. Obviously, I could try and fit, 3 red on this helmet and put an increased duration on here instead, but frankly, these things last long enough already, so it's not super necessary, but that would probably be like the correct thing to do. And then, of course, I have Discipline and Shield Charge linked with faster attacks support. Discipline is just a ton of energy shield. I can show you right now. If I turn it off, I go from 10,557 to 9,379. So it's a pretty obscene amount of energy shield from Discipline. You pretty much always want it on an energy shield build. And then, of course, Shield Charge with faster attacks just so we can move around a whole bunch. Brightbeak making this even faster, of course. So the tree. We are an Occultist. And the main reason for Occultist is because Occultist has the best energy shield nodes as far as I'm concerned. And double curse. That's about it. Nothing too super fancy. The order I went was Wicked Ward, Vile Bastion, Profane Bloom, Malediction. You can try and mix up the order, see what works. Honestly, this character kind of sucked while leveling until it got to a point where it could actually use CI, basically level 68, when I could use the chest that I bought. So I don't know. I don't think it really matters too terribly much as long as you have Bloom, Ward, and Bastion as your first 3. I don't think the order matters too terribly much. And the rest of the tree is pretty simple. We grab energy shield points. Shocking, I know. We travel for, well, look at that. Energy shield point. Travel for Chaos Inoculation. Thankfully, we can also pick up all these curse nodes to make our curses quite a bit stronger. Also grabbing a couple, I grabbed this reduced mana res and these ones as well as this guy. It's pretty powerful and pretty required. You could theoretically triple curse with this build if you want to grab Whispers of Doom, and maybe run the 3rd curse off of Blasphemy, maybe something like a curse on hit on the Orb of Storms, something like that. You could try that and see how that works for you, but I'm pretty happy with the way it's currently working with just double curse both on Blasphemy. It seems pretty good. And it's mostly, it's just traveling for energy shield points. Energy shield trees are pretty simple. The main things that we're grabbing aside from energy shield is, of course, Elemental Equilibrium Keystone and Elemental Overload Keystone. These are the 2 best ways to scale Vaal, Righteous Fire in general, but also Vaal Righteous Fire and Scorching Ray, because neither of them hit, and neither of them thus can crit. So Elemental Overload has effectively no downside. We just have to crit every 8 seconds, and then Elemental Equilibrium, it's pretty much impossible to actually get fire damage to hit, unless you accidentally have fire damage to attacks on one of your pieces of gear. So definitely be on the lookout if you're buying an amulet and it has number-to-number fire attacks, or fire to attacks. Don't use it, or, buy it and maybe, go for a Sika Null or something like that if it is a really good amulet. And then, of course, we have the Flask effect, the only Flask effect on tree to make Soul Catcher even better. And then these AoE nodes, because why not? You saw the AoE, it was absurd. You'll also notice I have both Might and Physique, and I'm still, right at the amount. I think the required strength for this build is 120 something. It's pretty hard to get strength on this build, so definitely consider that. As far as Joules are concerned, Joules are pretty simple. First of all, you do probably want 2 Adziri's Reign. I'm using 2. I have an 18% and a 19%. This adds even more duration to the Vaal Righteous Fire, and that combined with these duration nodes, as well as the increased duration support, gets it up to, like I said, a pretty high amount. 10.64 seconds is the specific amount. In fact, I can show you the soul gain prevention. 5.64. So yeah, we actually have exactly 5 seconds to use Vaal Righteous Fire to gain souls. But other than the Adziri's Reign, you could run the one that has a chance of giving you more souls on kill. That would make chaining Vaal Righteous Fire theoretically a bit easier. You could run that. I found it unnecessary because I'm chaining pretty alright. So the rest of your Joules want to have 2 very important stats: Max Energy Shield and increase burning damage. Everything else is just bonus, but definitely go for the bonus. I mean, max energy shield plus burning damage is not a super expensive jewel. So if you can find one 3-prop like this, like faster start of energy shield recharge is totally fine. So get something like this. They can still be pretty cheap. I think none of my jewels were more than 5C. Oh, this guy too. I forgot to mention, Conqueror's Potency is a unique jewel that you get from leveling. You get it in like Act 9, I think. And the thing about it is that it doesn't immediately look that good, but it actually is very good for this build. So we have increased effect of curses, increased effect of non-curse auras, increased effect of flasks. All three are great for this build, right? They're all great. And the nice thing about it is that a lot of people do this thing, myself included, where basically if you're not going to use a leveling jewel, like one of the unique jewels that you get from leveling, you just corrupt it, like you just Vaal orb it. And the reason that you Vaal orb it is because it can actually change into a rare jewel, or it can change into one of the Vaal jewels. It can turn into a whole bunch of stuff, and it's basically a free roll. And luckily, I was able to find this one with global damage. There's also area of effect. Global damage and area of effect are the two implicit corruptions that you'd be looking for. So if you can find one of those for pretty cheap, I think I got this for 2C. Definitely go for that. But the rest of my jewels are, again, max energy shield, burning damage, recharge rate, why not? Max energy shield, burning damage, block with shields, why not? So that's pretty much it. That's all you're looking for. And the main thing I will say about this build is don't go from level 1 towards all this energy shield stuff unless you have like Crown of Thorns and any sort of like leveling uniques that give you a lot of energy shield. If you have those, definitely consider going straight for energy shield to start with. But the way I did it was I actually went up to this through Heart and Soul, and I focused on these nodes because they're life nodes as well as energy shield nodes. And then just basically got most of the traveling on the tree done. And then again, by the time I hit level 68, what I did was I respec'd out of the path up to Occultist Dominion. I spec'd out of that, I spec'd out of these, and then I grabbed Chaos Inoculation, Zealot's Oath, and then whatever the leftover points led to as well. And I did that as soon as I hit 68 because that is when I could use this chest. And that's my advice, right? Is basically just do that. Try and get a chest. You want to have some amount of currency to start this character off. So try and get a good chest for a good price. 6 link is ideal. 5 link is still totally fine. And as soon as you can use said chest, and rule of thumb is I would say aim for over 500 energy shield on chest. You can get a bit more. I think 550 is like where the absurd ones start. Like 550 is like, this is multiple exalts just for the base, right? Ignoring links. So 500 is a pretty reasonable thing to get, and it's pretty high. So aim for 500 plus, aim for 6 link, get the chest, hit 68, spec into CI, spec into Zealot's Oath, get whatever you got to do, and get to this point. And that's the build. If you're curious about the MTX, by the way, I know Mathil does this, and I'm sure some people are curious, but I think it's pretty sweet. I'm currently using the Council Helmet, Council Helmet with Conquest Body Armor. These are both supporter packs for the current league. Council Boots as well, Council Character Effect as well. I'm using the Automaton Halo from the I guess loot boxes, the recent mystery box. Automaton Gloves, the Council Weapon Effect, Carnage Shield, Sin Footprints. I'm using, of course, Ice Frog, and the portal is the Council Portal. Oh yeah, and then the Sin Cloak. That's the MTX, and that's the character. So thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Sorry if it was a little bit long, but I wanted to cover as much as I possibly could. If you do have any questions, if I missed something, and if it's not in the written guide, wherever that ends up being, please ask in the comments. I will happily answer that question. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.